We're back. Another episode of the Golden V podcast, shifting gears from our winter and spring of lacrosse and some Canadians baseball to welcome back Giulio Caravatta, BC Lions color analyst on the BC Lions broadcasts, to talk about, amongst other things, day 4 of BC Lions training camp in Kamloops. Giulio, how are you?
I'm good, Ben. How are you? It's that time of the year again, isn't it?
It is that time of the year again. It has come and gone so quickly. I've been doing a bunch of research, listening to Matt Baker's daily updates, trying to read through some transcripts of the YouTube videos that he's been putting out. There's so many things to talk about. The optimism of the spring and another season after those challenges of the 9-9 season, all the personnel coaching changes in the off season. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that happened, right? I mean, you and I were both at those press conferences over that period in November and December, where a lot of things went down. But let's just dive right in, because I'm really interested to see this. And I think this is one of the things that's going to hinge on how the season goes. And you'd have to be living under a rock as a Lions fan to realize it. Nathan Rourke, what kind of work he's been putting in the offseason, and how he looks now that he's come to camp.
Well, I think all of us will agree that it was a very difficult situation that Nathan came into midway through the year. Right. But I think obviously he wasn't happy about the way things went down and how the season progressed. And if you know Nathan, you know that he is 1,000% committed, to making himself better and to being prepared and ready to go for the beginning of this training camp. And there's no question, looking at him physically and and just looking at his performance up to this point, I know it's only, he was here with the rookies, but really only day 3 or 4 with the veterans. He looks like he's getting more and more comfortable with the offense, because you got to remember too, Buck Pierce brings his system, so new verbiage, and getting assimilated to all that stuff. But I know that they've been meeting, all off season, and I'm sure that he's, got this down. And I've thought that he's looked good. Jeremiah Masoli has looked good. Chase Bryce has looked good. I think quarterbacking, and they're in a good spot. And I know Nathan's very, very motivated to show everybody that he was the quarterback that he was when he left in 22.
Well, that's going to be the big thing, right? And that's what I think a lot of people are thinking is this season is going to be hinging on. And it's a fair thing to ask, just because of Nathan's 2022, right? I mean,
every team, Ben, is in the same boat, right? Every team, you come to this time of the year, the quarterbacks is the number one topic, right? And I think the strength of the quarterbacking right across the league, like if you look, what is it? 9 of the backups in the CFL have all been starters at one point. I think, what did I read? That out of those 9, 5 have started in Grey Cups. So the quarterbacking and the depth of quarterbacking is outstanding, which is good for all the teams, because we've seen it over the years that you're going to need a couple of guys, right? You hope that nothing happens to your starter, but you need to have somebody ready to go that can step in and be able to keep you going without having to take a step back because you're playing somebody that's as green as grass, right? You've got to have some type of veteran player behind them, and the Lions, I think, have done that.
Well, that's right, because when you think about when Nathan got hurt and they had his name escapes me, it's on the tip of my tongue. In 2022, when Nathan got hurt before they got Vernon, who was the quarterback they had briefly? Pipkin, wasn't it?
Dolagala.
Yeah, right. Well, they had Pipkin, I think, and they had Dolagala last year.
Yeah, and Tony. Yes, exactly. It's hard for me to think back a couple of years, but yeah, and then Jake Dolagala was in there when Vernon got hurt, and it's and I think coaches around the league, they realize and understand. You need 2 solid quarterbacks with experience, and then you need that third guy too to be somebody that if you're pressed, that you're going to be able to survive with him in there. And I mean, that's the job of general managers and personnel, that you're always in search of the next guy. You have to, every position. if you want to be successful in this league and establish, you look at what the Lions were when Wally Buono was here, and you look what Winnipeg has done, and you look at what Toronto has done in the last few. It's their depth and their ability to find players when you lose them, whether it's to the NFL or whether it's to free agency. You are always in search of the next guy, and that's the difference between having an established, well-oiled machine as a franchise and having one that might flourish one year and then be disappointing another, right? You just got to have that consistency, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah, because I had noted that down here in my notes. Nathan Rourke, Jeremiah Masoli, and Chase Bryce. Obviously, listening to one of Matt's updates from training camp. Obviously, those on the BC Lions YouTube channel, and I know about Jeremiah Masoli. Does anybody question his age at 35, 36, what he can provide? Because I think of a couple years ago when you had Dane Evans, and then Dane Evans retired, right? So
Yeah, well, Dane was an exception, right? Like Dane, who knows where Dane would be now, but like he's like with Dane's experience, so he had played in a couple of Grey Cups and
yeah,
where he was in his career getting him. But I think Jeremiah too, like obviously he's been injured and his career kind of, took a step back there when he got hurt and he got hurt again. But he provides what so many coaches want is a guy that is not going to be rattled by getting put into a game or starting a game. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a seasoned pro that has been through every situation and is going to give you a chance. And Jeremiah's definitely fits in that category of he's a winner. He's been a proven winner, and the players believe in him because they know what he brings to the table, and that goes a long way.
it does. And I guess just a quick thing on Chase Bryce. I want your thoughts, but let's look at some other parts of the offense because I think in my research too, the receivers have changed pretty significantly in the offseason.
Yeah, they have, and they've the core guys. So obviously Justin McInnis is your core piece, right?
Yep.
Signs a new contract and well deserved. Justin's an elite
Yep.
receiver in this league and a guy that you can build around. So you have him, Javon Couture, who had a little bit of an injury issue last year, but we know you're going to get out of Javon. Javon's a big, strong kid who is reliable and when healthy is as good as anybody. And then you have Keon Hatcher, who's coming off that Achilles, who looks fantastic. I've been
That's
watching
big.
him closely. He's gets a full training camp after coming halfway through the year after the injury, and I think that he's much more prepared for this year. It looks good. And then you have Stanley Berryhill, who has, I think taken that next step. He's got great speed. He provides that vertical stretch that you need. He's made a couple of big catches in this camp. So that's, that's your other receiver. And Aiden Eberhardt looks very good.
Okay.
Again, full off season, working with Nathan, I think has really, really helped him. And so I think they're pretty comfortable with their starting five guys. And then you look at some of the guys that have progressed and, look like a Jared Gibson who has shown to be a guy that they really like, has come through the rookie camp and is now getting some meaningful reps with the first team. He looks good. I think Jermaine Jackson is another kid that they like, who's got a little bit of NFL experience, but he is super, super explosive, like quick. And
Mhm.
they're really excited about what he can do with the return game. A kid that had 4 return touchdowns in college. So they've got they're excited about some young pieces and sticking to the receivers, and this will apply to all the positions. And I talked to Ryan McMaden, the general manager, today extensively about this. Is every year when you come to training camp, you need to let's be realistic. Probably 80 to 85% of this roster is set, right? They know what they have in certain veterans and what they bring to the table. And they've had guys here that have taken the next step but you're in constant search of the next guy, of the next group of guys. receiver, DB, O-line, D-line, linebacker, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're in constant search of those guys. And I think that they feel good about some of the young talent that they've brought in. And they feel that, if needed, they'd be able to use them. And given maybe some time on the practice roster or wherever the
Right.
development is, they're going to be those guys that are going to be the next guys. So that's what I really look at, right? I look at who are the next young and up and coming guys, and to follow that up, not only do you need the young and upcoming guys, you need the guys that have been drafted or were free agents or were here last year
Right.
and young and rookies to have evolved in the second year to become legitimate potential starters. Jordan Perryman, defensive back, corner, is a guy like that. Ronald Kent Jr., who's put on some weight, is a bit bigger, and they like what he has done. You got to look at Mike Smith Jr., the linebacker that they brought in on the practice roster, who they really like out of Baylor. They think that he's going to be a very, very good player here. So you see what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
need those guys to take the next step. George Una, their first round draft pick, is a guy that they have. They have high hopes for him to become a starter at right guard on the offensive line. That's how you build championship teams.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Ringmaiden's done a good job of that. I'm just looking at some of my other notes here too, Julio. Obviously, James Butler comes into camp, returning from his season here in 2022 with Nathan, where they were such a dynamic duo. I think of that game to start the season that year against Edmonton. I remember what the final score, but they racked up something like 50 points. But I think Edmonton was also particularly bad that game. But who else is in camp besides James Butler? If we're looking at sort of running back,
Yeah, the
fullback
running backs.
position.
Yeah, the running backs have been impressive as well. Like that's one of the positions again that I know Ryan Rigmaiden has brought in a few guys that he was very, very high on and was excited about seeing them do their thing up here. Jason Huntley is a guy that they like very much.
Okay.
He's he's a running back that could probably do a little bit of returning for you, very fast, very quick. Jordan Terrell, who comes back after he played a few games last year, was mostly on the practice roster. He has looked good. Young man, his name is Xander Horvath. He's out of Purdue. He's 6'3", 230. And so for here, usually you see more, 5'10", 5'11", kind of. He's a big boy, and he runs the ball very, very well. I've been super, super impressed with him.
Right.
So they've got some good options there, right? So all of those guys have, to this point, have shown very well. Now, what's going to separate them? Monday afternoon in Victoria. That's what will separate them. Because with this early preseason game, it will put a lot of strain on these young guys, to perform. There's not going to be much more of an opportunity, right? Like you're gonna have to play well in that game. They're gonna have to make cuts after that game, and then really now, because realistically, you're not going to see very many veterans play in this game on Monday, maybe a handful.
Mm.
So a lot of these young guys are going to get a very, very good long look. They need to impress, right? No matter what you do in practice, it's what you do in the game. So that is going to be something that we're going to have to keep our eye on.
Yeah, because I had a couple of notes here too, Julio. Obviously, training camp day 4 today. Training camp day 3 was yesterday. First day in pads. Day 1, I had a note here about 98 bodies in camp, which is a lot. But you touched on the Langford game on May 19th, and I wanted to sort of dive into that a little bit because it's something I'm a bit ignorant about, and you're obviously very educated and experienced about.
Wow.
Is that long process of training camp in Kamloops, and even with the Langford game on May 19th, like they're up there for quite a while with a lot of things happening, right?
Yeah. So here's the unusual part about playing the early preseason game is that you got to remember, like last week, I think it was the 6th or the 7th, the rookies reported. They practiced Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They had to make cuts. Sunday, the veterans got here. So we're now at Thursday. Okay. So Friday, normally training camp, this Saturday would be an inter squad game, be a controlled scrimmage, but it would be an opportunity to play live but it be controlled. So guys are going to be able to show themselves there, right? Like we've seen it in the past where they had the inter squad games. Hey, this guy jumped out at me. This guy jumped out at me. And now all of a sudden you look forward to the preseason game.
Right.
But with the early game, they're playing on Monday, right?
Right.
So they're going to play Monday, and then they're going to come and they're going to make cuts, and then it's going to be a full almost 10 days before
Yeah, I was
they
just
play
looking at that.
in
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Yeah.
And that's their final preseason game, which normally if you're not going to play your veterans on Monday, now it's going to be almost a full 12 days before those guys are going to see their action. So, you know what I mean? Like they're going to probably dominate most of that game. Like you're going to probably play them 2 to 3 quarters at least, or maybe 2 and a bit.
Right.
So if you're a young guy, you're looking at maybe a quarter to try to impress if you can get to that game. So I've always said too, Ben, that for being a young guy and trying to make a pro team in this league, it's a brutal process. I mean, you got a small window, and especially this year, because that game is going to really, I mean, you're gonna sink or you're gonna swim. And so if you're able to do well in that game, you're gonna survive. If you don't, you're gonna be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that must be tough. You
Yeah.
experienced it being in training camps. I've never experienced it. I've only ever witnessed it. I've tried to dive as deep as I can into all these processes, talking with you, right? And attending all those Lions press conferences, and trying to learn as much about training camp as I can, short of coming up there myself. But let's shift gears a little bit too, because there's some stuff to talk about on defense. One of the things I caught was Micah Awe, obviously back in camp. And we just got one question here, but I'll just get to this point, and then actually Q-Man has a question. So we'll
Sure.
throw in Q-Man's question. Micah Awe, first camp back in 2017 with BC Lions. He talked about backing up Solomon Elamimian, which I thought was a neat little tidbit. But what about Micah Awe coming back into camp? Because he made a couple of comments yesterday too about the level of intensity, right?
Let me tell you, Ben. I'm gonna just admit it out loud. I am a huge Micah Awe fan. I love the way that he plays. I love the intensity that he brings to the field. Um, he is a guy that plays. He plays fast. He plays intense, and he raises the intensity of the people around him. And
Right.
you think about the season that he had in 23. I mean, he had 134 tackles. He had 2 sacks. I think he had 3 interceptions. He had like 12 special team stats. He was everywhere. And I talked to him 2 days ago, and I said to him, I go, I'm not going to, why didn't you resign? Why wouldn't they want you back in Calgary? And he really didn't have an answer. He just kind of said, they decided, well, I mean, I just couldn't be more happy that the Lions, because I think that's exactly the kind of guy they need. Until Josh Woods gets back, with him and Josh, holy cow.
Well, that was my next question, because that was
That's going to
mentioned.
be a pretty good dynamic duo there, because I love the Mike Smith Jr., who's again, they really like him, and he's a good player. But Micah he's an experienced guy. He has almost 500 tackles in this league. He, like I said, he's a veteran. He knows how to play the game. He plays at a level that I think raises the intensity of that defense, and that's what they needed. He brings a nasty edge to you. When you're playing against him, you better know where he is, because he's going to hit you in the mouth if you don't.
Yeah, let's just drop in Q-Man's question here. He said, day 9 training camp, do you risk work in Langford or any ones on the O-line?
Sorry, what was that?
Day 9 in training camp, I got a question here from Q-Man. It says, do you risk...
okay, sorry. Yes, I can see it there. It's up on the side there.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I think, if I'm being totally honest, and I have not been told this, I'm sure they want to bring Nathan to the island, and he's going to dress. If he takes 2 snaps, he might be lucky. And to his point, to Q-Man's point, you're not going to risk any of your starters if you're putting together an offensive line that is going to be predominantly young guys.
Right.
So yes, I would be very surprised if he played at all, or he's going to play a very, very few plays just to roll him out onto the field for the fans to see him and then take him out very quickly.
And this thing with Josh Woods and the torn ACL, I had that listed too. We should dive back into that a little bit, just because obviously we want to answer Q-Man's question. Thanks, Q-Man, for the question. Really appreciate it. And I got a couple more things for you, Giulio. Then one sort of piece of something that's going to make you laugh. So, what's the story with Josh Woods? Have you heard anything around training camp?
No, I saw him. He's working. He's working with the strength and conditioning coach. I saw him. I see him every day working. Works really hard. Looks good. He's. They're going to be very cautious, and bring him along. And I think the same is with Adam O'Clair, the linebacker they signed in free agency, who looks very good as well. I think he has a little bit of a nagging issue that again they're going to take their time with, and just really slowly progress into getting them involved. I don't know what the timeline is with Josh. I haven't been told that. I just know that they're going to be cautious. They want him to be, so it's coming up. I'm not 100% sure. What was it? Was week 3 or week 4 of the season last year where he went down?
I can't remember the exact.
We're almost coming up on a year, right? So that's right around the timetable of recovery for some ACLs, and I think he's on track to probably right there.
Yeah, one of the other things I picked up in the transcript of some of Matt Baker's videos too was just chuckling at Matthew Betts obviously being back for training camp, and he was speaking with Matt about first time in Kamloops for 2 years. What made me chuckle was him talking about Benny, and that means obviously Mike Benevides preaching ball all the time. Oh, yeah. Share a little bit about that, because that's kind of one of those things.
Well, it's very, very evident when you watch practice that every single play that they are, in team, or they're on 8-on-8 whenever they do those drills, everybody is being instructed to go for the ball. So it is your defensive linemen, linebackers, DBs. If you're running with the football, there are 2 or 3 guys coming trying to get the ball out. So it is very, very evident that that is something that they want to turn around. I don't have to tell people who watch the game and understand the game that usually during the course of the year, you look at a couple of statistics. Obviously they play their role, but one of the ones that I really look at is the giveaway takeaway, and it's without fail usually the team that ends up winning or being in a position to win Grey Cup, West Final, East Final, whatever it is, they're at the top of that. They're in the plus in that category. Very, very rarely are you ever going to see a team that's in the minus that's going to be in that position to win, because you're giving away the ball more than you're taking it, and those turnovers we know in games are critical. So I think that's something they want to turn around. It's something that they clearly have been preaching to the players, because it is very, very evident when you watch a practice how the defenders are going for the football. The offense is being taught that you better hold on to it. So it is something that Mike Benevides clearly has talked to his team about, and they are working very hard at turning around.
All right, final thing here for you. Announced yesterday, made me laugh. Snoop Dogg as the concert.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I love the way they did it too. So just to give you because obviously the announcement came out at a certain time. I think it was 9:30 when they released it. They brought the team together.
I saw
during practice. Yeah, and all of a sudden they started playing Snoop Dogg over the speaker, and I was like, I was close to Matt Baker. And Matt said, "Oh yeah, they just announced it." I said, "Well, what did they announce?" He goes, "Oh, they announced the act." I go, "Oh, I had totally forgot about it." And he says, "Yeah, it's Snoop Dogg." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "Yeah." I go, "That is awesome." I just guy, you gotta love Amar Doman, right? Like, come on, like.
Well, exactly, right? It's like,
what an owner.
Since he took
like
the team
it just
over,
blows me away that the guy is just constantly doing this kind of stuff for the fans and for the game, and it's awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought it was I immediately went and found some old Snoop Dogg stuff, and I'm trying to think when I put this podcast together for people to listen to after we do this interview of throwing some Snoop Dogg music on there, either pre and post, just because we've had 50 Cent and we had LL Cool J, and to get Snoop Dogg, and it's going to be a great event. It's a Saturday night game that night against Edmonton, right? It's not a afternoon game like a lot of those afternoon games were last year at 4 o'clock. So definitely
It's
going to be
gonna be
special.
it's gonna be exciting.
All right. Well, thanks, Julio. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate all the insights and information from training camp.